Okay, so I've been experimenting with the photogrammetry thing a bit more. Trying to do interior spaces, and interior spaces are hard because first of all I'm using an action cameras, which aren't great in low light. GoPro 7 Hero 7 Black to be specific. Um, but I have got a method that sort of works. As you can see, the model's a bit lumpy, but it would be better if I had more coverage. I only just walk down the aisles, around the aisles, or rather, I place a tripod with the 6 GoPros in this sort of configuration. I don't know if you can kind of see there. So I had a light stand and three pointing this way, and I just basically walked around, placed the light stand, and shot in the night shot mode, which is, well, I'm going to experiment with the HDR mode. Because obviously you can see all the windows are blowing out, which is always going to be a problem. Like you see they're quite bright. But I mean, the cool thing about action cameras is everything's in focus. You don't have to worry about focus. But the bad thing is they're not great. They have quite noisy low light. But as I say, the night shot mode kind of shoots the lowest ISO and the longest exposure to try and get the best picture, is what I found. But as I say, if you do get these blown out pictures, I also set it to save the GoPro RAW format. And you can use, I've been exploring because I'm trying to break my Adobe addiction and not use Lightroom, and use Affinity Photo to batch convert the raw files, GoPro files, into either you can actually go into EXR, which Metashape likes. But I found even when I exported out as EXR or JPEGs that had the exposure adjusted, so I brought down I reclaimed the highlights and brought up the shadows and all the rest of it, got it all looking nice, and then saved out a JPEG sequence or an EXR sequence. I tried all the different options of processing the raw files, and the best version I've got came straight from the JPEGs. And I thought it might be because there is the potential of losing metadata in the when you in the conversion. From if you go from raw to EXR, you might lose the metadata. It's pretty noisy, but I think this is the best. I'm gonna have another go. As I say, try the HDR mode, and again try the EXR to try and get the maximum color depth. I think it's probably could probably retopologize it, but it is a bit noisy. It's not a LiDAR scan, but it's better than you could do with an iPhone, and I would even say a Vision Pro. Any depth sensing, I think this is it's still better. It just has slightly more fidelity. I mean, obviously it breaks apart over there, but there's no pictures over there. So let's see if we can go to the plan view to give you an idea see how I arrange the. If I hide the model, you'll see we've got the whole place like this, and this was me just going around the aisles. So if I obviously go down into is it cloisters? I'm not quite sure what the terminology is. On the various different parts and up to the altar and stuff, and get a bit more of a complete model. But I'm going to try. But I just want to quickly iterate that I shot so that you can see how I'm shooting in pairs, right? And the thing is, it's only like under a meter apart, and I was thinking maybe it would resolve the model better if there was more overlap, so between the two paired photos. So instead of landscape, maybe portrait would make more sense. So there's more in common. And also maybe if I have them further apart, there'll be more parallax, so that might give us better results as well. And also partly because obviously I've got 6 cameras, so we have a sort of blind spot, as you can see me walking as I place it. There's a blind spot over here, where which is not covered. So I thought to do it in a more complete way, I would put 3 down one side and 3 down another side, sort of stacked on top of each other, as opposed to 2 stacked on top of each other in 3 different directions. I would have 3 stacked on the top of each other in 2 directions, and then I'll turn it 180 to do the opposite direction, and then that's way I'd get maximum. So basically, shoot portrait. Instead of shooting in pairs, have a portrait maybe over 1.5 meters, and have three GoPros all in a line on top of each other, and then spin it around 180 to go the other uncovered directions, and that should give me hopefully better coverage in the model, more parallax in the in a triangulation of the the geometry and everything. So hopefully that'll give me a better model, and also shoot in HDR mode so we don't get any of this blown out windows, because you're losing all the detail in the windows, right? But I'm pretty I can't believe how long I was putting off going into the church. I did really, there's something about the whole idea I'm going into church. I might get accosted by the vicar or something. But as it was, as I kind of suspected, I went lunchtime, Friday, no one was there, so it was fine. So I know I can go back there, maybe middle of the week, again lunchtime, and try shooting with the high dynamic range into the RAW format in portrait, in groups of 3s, as opposed to the normal shooting in pairs practice. So hopefully that will resolve a better model. We'll find out at some point. But if you ever try to do a scan of a room, it's actually very difficult, just because there's always poor light and there's always a strong window light source, and so the light, as you turn the camera around, the exposure will change, all these sorts of things. So it is actually quite challenging. I mean, potentially you could lock the exposure, but I found I had more luck. Basically, I found I had more luck if with properly exposed photos, even if the exposure changed between photos, then having a locked exposure and then things being underexposed and overexposed, because then there's just no color information at all. As well as if the exposure is slightly off, I think the program can kind of compensate for that. So it seems to resolve in a better model. But I'm pretty pleased. I mean, as I say, experimenting doing this method. So it's the night shot mode, but I'm going to try using the HDR mode, which might make things look a little weird, as HDR stuff can do, but it might resolve in a better model. So I'm going to try just to, like A/B. So I mean, this is the thing with the photogrammetry thing. I'm constantly trying new techniques. I've sort of slightly given up on the processing the raw files to get a better model, because I can't that doesn't seem to be the case with the GoPros, or with the way that I'm shooting with the automatic exposure, as opposed to the locked exposure. And maybe that's the difference, why it would work better. But obviously, shooting with camera rays, you can cover. This took me about 20 minutes, I think. Obviously, I put down a light stand, and then make sure it's not wobbling when I take the photo. But yeah, just sort of, and the textures would be a lot better if I, because this is all the textures currently on the vertices. Okay, I think I'll stop the video there, and there'll probably be an update in maybe a week's time or something. Okay, that's it.